Council. The next two presentations will be by Todd Reck from our Water Utilities Department. Todd, if you please come down and talk to us about item number 18, which is the Finley tank change order, and then item number 26, talking about the sewer pipe excavation and cleaning. Thank you.
Add them backwards for you, James. There you go. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, and staff. I'm Todd Reck. I'm the Water Utilities Director. And this item is a change order to the original construction project. It relates to our Finley elevated storage tank. It's one of our oldest storage tanks in the system, built back in the mid-'60s. So it's about 50 years old, a little over 50 years old. In this project, we were completely renovating the tank inside and out. Made some structural improvements, replaced some safety ladders and some other devices associated with the tank. The one thing that we didn't include in the original contract was the piping coming out of the tank and then going out into our distribution system. So this is the final piece of this. This is the third and final change order, and what this one does, previous work replaced the horizontal piping underground and also the vertical fill tube. The one piece that we didn't include was as you can see up on the figure, there's a 90-degree bend that's directly under the tank. It's a very difficult bend to get out because it was embedded in concrete and it was actually under the center column of the tank. So we didn't know if we could do it or not, but we worked with the contractor and we were able to come up with a method to actually go down and jackhammer that bend out, and actually having to pull it up through the center column of the tank, cut a hole in the top of the tank to get it out. But the end result, the good news is that when it's finished, we'll have a tank that's essentially like a new tank with new piping all the way from the bowl of the tank out to the distribution system. So I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have on that.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify, Todd, this is the tank that actually had a failure on it, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
And the amount of this is about $48,000 for replacing this piece.
Yes, this will be the final piece to complete all the piping, that we had the failure on previously.
That little red mark that's on the drawing is where the pipe burst occurred, letting million-ish gallons out.
Yeah, it was directly below the tank, and so again, that's part of the project to replace all of that piping.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Next one. Okay, the next item is related to an emergency sanitary sewer project that we've been working on up in the urban center, just completed it this past month. There's a map that show up on the screen that give you a general idea of where we've been working. A little bit of background, we have a couple of crews and vehicles that go out every day and assess the condition of our sewer mains. They have cameras, robotic cameras that we actually insert in the sewer, and we're able to take pictures and video, and then we bring that back and provide ratings. And that's what we use to help make decisions on which of the sewer mains that we need to replace each year. During that process up in the urban center, one of these cameras got lodged in an obstruction in an 18-inch main that serves University Hills, and we were concerned about creating a complete stoppage of the line, a backup, and concerns about public health and safety associated with that. So this is a map that shows a blow up of that area, and let's see if this cursor works. If you see the red line, the thing I wanted to point out is where we originally thought the line was in red here, and that's where our map showed the line to be, and that's where we were working. That's where we thought the camera and the obstruction had occurred. This is a excavation area that I'll talk about a little bit more here in a minute, and then we had a couple of buried manholes. This line was put in the 1950s, and when the development started to occur up in the urban center, some levees were built in the 1970s, and this line was completely covered up. A couple of manholes are now 20 feet below ground. So there's really no indication that the line was actually in a different location than where we thought. So going back to the blockage, we had attempts to try to get it out of the pipe, which is what we typically try to do. We've got cables on the camera. We tried to pull it out, actually broke the cables, tried to reconnect and pull it out again, but we were concerned about pulling too hard to pull it out through the line because it's an old clay line and it has a tendency to break, and we're concerned about a complete collapse. So the only way to remove the obstruction was to excavate, and it was a very complicated excavation because we're digging 30 foot deep down in the ground, working on the side of a levee. There's a major gas line below it, numerous other utilities, and so we didn't possess the equipment we felt like to perform it safely. So we engaged SYB, which is a contractor that does a lot of utility work, to help lead the emergency work. So some of the challenges we had very limited information on where the location of the sewer main was, and it took us several weeks actually to find the sewer main, since we were searching for a main that was 30 feet underground and surrounded by a bunch of other utilities. The excavation was very slow. Took a lot of trench boxes and plates to do it safely. And then once we were able to get in the main and pull the obstruction out, it was a very slow process to actually go back and build the levee back up to FEMA standards. So this is a picture that just shows the profile, and we originally thought that the pipeline was down in the toe or the bottom of the slope of the levee, and you can see about where that truck is where we actually found the sewer line. So we spent a lot of time poking holes and with our vacuum trucks trying to find where the sewer main was actually located. This is a couple of pictures that show the complexity of the excavation. You can see there were a number of the utility lines and power lines that were in the way that we had to dig around. Some trench boxes had to be installed. And you get a feel for the size and scale of it by looking at a couple of the people that are standing around the trench boxes. And this is another picture again that shows just the depth of it. You can see the trench box on the right. That actually goes down about another 15 feet down in the ground where our sewer main was located. And then finally, here's a picture that shows the completed project. Some of the paving's in. The final part of the paving is not in yet, but the manhole that was buried, one of the buried manholes is actually directly below where you see the paving on the left. So in summary, we had a lot of challenges. First, to just locate it because it's a very old main, and then to remove the blockage. It's a total of $142,946.68. It's on the agenda today, and as part of this process, we've gone back and evaluated, and it will be a line that we'll be requesting to replace in the future just because it's one that we can't access safely and can't maintain. And so with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have on that item.
Oscar?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The last three presentations you just saw, including this one, I'm not a question for this project, is we saw all of these presentations in work sessions. So for the audience out here and the TV audience, that we thought it was important in order to be a little more transparent, to show you and share with you what we see in the work session, because we get this consent agenda, and so many times we just pass through it and not bring these items up. So I do appreciate the city manager taking care of this and putting these items to share with the public what we see at the work session that sometimes you do not see at a regular council meeting. So thank you.
David?
Mayor, and again, just to add on to what Oscar said, what I think was really important about these two is these are both unforeseen expenses and things that come up that they're not budgeted for, they're not planned for, and all of a sudden, $190,000 plus or minus is getting spent on things, and this is just, we're in February. So these kind of things come up, and I think it's important, as Oscar said, that everybody is aware of this, that these kinds of things are ongoing things that we have to try to plan for and have reserves for. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.